Rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that all the board is here. And Mr. Haig and Mrs. Sebo are gone this evening. We'll start with the girls. Haley, you want to go first?
Sure. Our boys hockey game just had a game on Saturday against Virginia. It was a tie, 2-2, and our boys varsity basketball is playing in Greenway tonight.
Thank you.
This Friday is our ugly sweater contest, and this is the last week before Christmas break. We end Friday and we come back January 4th.
Very good, thank you. And we only have one principal this evening, Mr. Carey.
I just have a couple things to make you aware of. So on December 4th, we had Curling Night in America down on the hill there, and we sent, during the day, it wasn't just the night, during the day we sent a number of our classes down to watch. And they actually, the 4th grade, brought Team China back with them, and they made gingerbread houses in the afternoon. None of them spoke English, so it was kind of cool to watch. And nor had they ever done gingerbread houses. So that was really cool. Holiday concert was this past Friday. Kids did a nice job. Staff did a good job preparing the kids. I'll tell you, it is an interesting time doing that during the day, though, when we're trying to operate a senior high and we have all those people going through. So I mean, we're going to be analyzing that situation and maybe try to come up with a better solution to that. It was a pretty busy day for us. So. But overall, kids did a nice job, and as did our new music teacher in preparing them. So that's all I have.
All right. Agenda changes and deletions.
I got a couple. They are in front of you. First one is 9.4. We got $965 from the Franklin Bears PTA for to purchase a new projector for the activity room. Then I have a couple additions. 10.2 already exists, but I added on to them. You'll see at the bottom there. I have Monica Von Wald as the noon duty senior high second semester at $8.30 a day, and then Mitch Huffman as a volunteer boys hockey coach.
Very good, thank you. 6.0, visitor input. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? Seeing none, we'll go on to 7.0, approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Shanlob and Young. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 8.0, approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Monday, November 23, 2015, and the special meeting of Monday, November 30, 2015.
Support.
Peterson and Gentilini. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 9.0, business office affairs. 9.1, approve the treasurer's report for the month of November and the first check writing of December.
For November, we have receipts of $320,723.82, disbursements of $606,532.01, payroll of $644,266.02. For the first check writing of December, we have disbursements of $213,862.23. I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Support.
Shanlob and Young. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 9.2, accept donation of $200 from the Seroptimist Club.
I'll move to accept with a letter of thanks.
Support.
Young and Shanlob. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 9.3, accept donation of hats, mittens, and scarves from Catholic Daughters.
Again, I'll move on the donation and with a letter of thanks to the Catholic Daughters. They're probably well needed.
I'll
Support.
support- Oh, go ahead, Shanlob. Young and Shanlob. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 10.4, approve a donation.
9.4.
Oh, I'm sorry, 9.4. Accept a donation from the Franklin Bears PTA, $965 for the purchase of a projector for the activity room.
So moved.
Support.
Shanlob and Gentilini. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 Personnel. 10.1 Approve 2015-2017 Director of Maintenance Transportation Contract of Randy Knowles.
I'll second.
Peterson and Forty. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 10.2, approve extracurricular appointments for the second semester. And it shows administration recommends following names for approval for second semester study halls in the senior high. All of these positions are $934 per semester. And then we have Paul Brainerd, Amy Krebs, Tim Strasser, Chris Chad, Jack Gritzmacher, Kevin Burrett, and Deb Custer. In addition to that, we have Monica Von Wald for noon duty, senior high, second semester, and Mitch Huffman, volunteer boys hockey coach.
I'll move approval of the appointments as presented.
Support.
Forty and Gentilini. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The 11.0 new business. The 11.1 accept fiscal year 2015 audit report.
Our audit is complete. I've invited Greg Knudsen from Walker, Drew, and Hani to present the findings.
Good evening. We've just recently finished the audit of ISD2154 Evelyn Gilbert for the year ended June 30th, 2015. We'll go through all, everybody should have a handout, but I'll go through a quick summary of the findings. The school district received a unmodified opinion, which is the highest opinion that you can get, and that basically means everything is fairly stated at June 30th, 15 for the year then ended as far as the reporting, and it means all the entries were made, and also I'd like to add that it went very good, and we had it went very efficient, so absolutely no problems as far as the audit results. So I'd like to congratulate the business office and Jeff and this entire staff, so it went very good as far as a summary.
Make note of that for my evaluation later.
Oh, yeah, that's right. huh?
How long were you here?
How long were we here?
Yes.
Well, we come and go, just depending on it. So we started sometime in, we had to get it done by November 30th. As far as the overall hours, I really can't say, but it was, it was less, time-wise overall, it was probably, I would say 3 weeks.
Okay.
But it wasn't consistent. We come and wait for things to get done. We don't sit around and spin wheels. We'll go to the other place or go back to our office. So we try to make sure it's we do it the best and most efficient way. And the first page on this, this is basically your Fund 1, which is your main operations of your general fund. And you can see over to the right, that fund balance started with 3.7 million, and you had revenues of 11,902,000, expenditures of 10.9 million. So you had revenues over expenditures of 983,000. There's a transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 3, which is your pupil transportation fund of the general fund of 301,000. You also see there's a sale of assets as goes through. So the ending fund balance of Fund 1 is just under 4.4 million. And you can see the vast majority of that is unassigned, 4,113,000. There's other sub-accounts of the unassigned, the ones C&C, severance sub-accounts. That's looks like another about 70,000 of that. You have the other breakdowns. And on the next page, I'll have all the breakdowns of all the general fund. Moving to Fund 3, which is the previously mentioned was the pupil transportation portion of the general fund. You had revenues of 593,000, expenditures of just under 900,000, resulting in a deficit on 301,000, and that deficit is eliminated as a transfer from the Fund 1 of it, 301,000, so an ending of zero. And the Fund 5 is all restricted, and that's basically restricted for it's the old capital expenditure fund, so all the fund balances are restricted. It's equipment, facility, deferred maintenance, health and safety, taconite, and you have the grand total. So that part of the fund started with 320,000, had 200,000 revenue over expenditures, and there's a transfer out that's the portion of the levy that goes to the debt service, and that's the way it's been for years, 112,000. So started with 320 and ended with 408,000. I'll note there's a deficit in health and safety, and that basically is a result of timing, because you eventually get all your revenue in health and safety, but there's a levy limitation that you can get in any 1 year. So that authorizes a levy increase in future years. So if you're in the long run, that'll always end up being a zero fund balance. It's either funded. Normally, I think it's for the long time it's been all funded by a levy, health and safety levy. Moving on to the grand total of general fund. Started the year with, and this is the combination of Fund 1, the operating, Fund 3, pupil transportation, and Fund 5, the capital expenditures. Started a year with just over 4 million. Had revenues of 14.4 million, expenditures of 13.5. So revenues over expenditures in the general fund, 882,000. That transfer, 112,837 to the Fund 7, the debt service fund. Sale of off assets, 12,000. So it went from 4,024,000 to 4,806 ending fund balance of the general fund. And you can see the vast majority, 4,189,000 is unassigned, and the restricted amount of the fund balance, I believe that's about 600,000, and then 200,000 non-spendable. That's basically to offset $200 that was put in as a prepaid expenditure. Turning to the next page, which is Fund 2. We have basically almost the rest of the funds on this page, other than the last one. Fund 2 is your food service fund. Started the fund balance of 78,000. Expenditures over revenues by 3,478. Basically broke even. Ending fund balance 75,212. About 10,000 is tied up in inventory at year end, and then the other 65,000 is considered restricted for food service. Fund 4 is your community service fund. Started the year at 22,267. Revenues over expenditures 24,600. Ending fund balance 46,865. You do have a couple of those fund balances that currently are in deficit. Restricted for community service 1,128, and school readiness 5,370. They are allowed to go into deficit, but eventually there has to be a plan to eliminate those. Community ed has 27,816 restricted at year end, and ECFC 25,907. Your scholarship trust fund, that's your fund 8, where you get interest and amounts scholared in, and then you have scholarships out. You can see you got 3,766 expenditures, 4,450 scholared. The fund balance reduced by 684 for ending 108,387. And you do have two debt service funds, one for your GO levy and the other one for your OPEB debt. Fund 7 is your regular levy, 47 is your OPEB bonded debt. Basically, these are meant to cover the expenditures over the long time, and you can see started 36,000 Fund 7, revenues of 382, majority of that's all levy, and principal and interest payments just under 500,000. So deficit is 116, but it's built in that transfer comes from general fund that I talked about, or Fund 5, 112,837, resulting in a deficit of about 3,000. It looks like $700 that fund balance decrease. And moving on, we have the Fund 47, 33,000 beginning, revenues over expenditures of 5,876, so the ending fund balance is 38,981. And the last fund at the ISD2154 is your OPEB trust fund, Fund 45. And this is what you levy the OPEB debt for, and the money goes in basically to pay other post-employment benefits. Began the year of 1.2 million, revenues 57,902, expenditures 280,000, just under 280. So the fund balance decreased by 221,334, and the ending OPEB trust, and it's a non-revocable trust fund, 980,775. That's all I have, unless anybody else has any questions.
Where does our royalty money come into our, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, rents and royalties, that usually comes into the general fund. Right, yeah, and it's not really, there's not really any real restrictions on it, not by the state.
As far as the budget goes, I mean, it would just be pushed into our revenues, our general revenue.
Correct, correct.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
As always, we appreciate it.
I appreciate being here.
Thank you. Thank you. And before we go forward, I would like to publicly thank Andrea for all the hard work she put into making this happen. And I think the fact that it's clear that that office is being run so efficiently, we certainly made the right decision. Thank you, Andrea. And we will need a motion to accept the report.
So move. Support.
Young and Shanlob, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 11.2, approve the 2015 payable 2016 levy.
On November 30th, we had a special board meeting we had Kathy Erickson from ARC come in and gave a presentation on our levy for 2016. Hopefully she answered all of our questions. I do have our business manager here and myself if you have any further questions, but I think overall we're going down about 6%, is that correct? From where we were last year, so.
All right. Well, I will move that we approve the 15 payable 16 levy.
Support.
Putzel and Young. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 11.3, set the reorganizational meeting date.
If you go by where they'd fall on the calendar, it'd be January 11th.
Did we do that last year? We just did the reorganizational meeting before, and then went into a regular meeting?
Right.
That's fine with me.
You want a
You
motion?
gotta have a motion for that,
Oh.
because it's not on the calendar right
I'll
now.
move that we set the reorganizational meeting on January 11th, 2016, prior to our 5 o'clock meeting, or at 5 o'clock, and we'll go into a regular meeting after that.
All right.
I'll second.
Peterson and 40. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 11.4, discussion on vacant buildings.
At our working session this last Monday, this is a topic that came up as to a number of things, what we would potentially do with them in the future. I was asked to look into a few things. One was to look into if we could spend our IRRR money on the grant money on demolition, for one. And I know that Andrea has made contact several times over there and has not received any confirmation back at this point, as of right now. And then the other thing is we're looking forward, so I did call Jim McNeil shortly after that meeting, and he is, as of Friday, he was done with drawing the construction documents for the abatement, and that will go out for bids this week. So probably at the January 11th meeting, we'll probably look at accepting bids for abatement on the manual training building. But past that, I guess we'll have to, I know later on tonight we're gonna hear Ryan's gonna, part of his presentation is gonna be the cost of what it's costing us to keep those open, so, and I think everyone here probably understands that. So,
How about the abatement in the old junior high building? Can that be done while it's occupied?
yes.
It can.
Yeah, we have that slated to, because that was part of our 10-year plan, that as we can go out for bids on that after June 30th, because that'll be on next year's
Okay.
health and safety, what it was,
Okay.
what we budgeted for. Or we could decide that we want to just do it, in which wouldn't be health and safety.
Okay.
Didn't Neil come back? What did we pass that day? I thought that was part of the abatement.
It was a 3-year plan. We were going to do
3-year
one
plan.
building a year.
Okay. But now that we are talking about expediting that,
We could
we have to go.
we could spend our own money on the other two if we wanted to. I mean, if we wanted to expedite that process, but that's
But that was
part of the
three-
discussion tonight, is if that's what we want to do or not.
But that we did basically one building in every year for the next 3 years, basically, right? So it'd be tied into that.
Yeah. Another point of interest, I know we had asked Ryan to look at the cost of demolition, and he did price that out, and it was just about $1 million by the time we were done with just the manual arts building. And the junior high, yeah. Yep,
That's for both buildings?
yep.
That's substantially lower than we had been led to believe, and it might have been rumor that came to us, but we were led to believe it would cost us a great deal more than that to have those taken down. So that's good
That's
news,
minus the abatement, which is another 200,000 on top of that.
but that's still
Um,
much below where we thought we
yeah.
might be. And we're aware that there's a process to get to that point, the demolition, particularly where the manual arts building is
Yeah.
concerned. But-
And that was the other thing that I was asked to do, was look for that process. And essentially, the first part of that process is to hold a public meeting. We have to close it officially. I mean, obviously, there haven't been kids in there for years, but we haven't officially closed it. So there's a period of time where the public can comment on that. In the case of the manual arts building, we would have to get an opinion from the Historic Society or the Historic Register, whoever monitors that. Is that?
Yes, please.
The office is called SHPO. It's a State Historic Preservation Office, which being on the National Register means that you would need to allow them to perform a reuse assessment at no cost to you. But you need to give them time to do that and allow them to present that to you prior to moving forward with demolishing the building. You are not bound by it. Should you choose to renovate those spaces, you would need to have that, or restore those spaces, you would need to have that in hand to be able to apply for any tax credits or those kinds of things. However, you aren't bound by anything that it says.
Thank you.
When can we schedule that meeting?
Anytime we want to.
So is that something we should do in the near future?
If that is the board's wish to move forward with that, yes, we should.
I mean, we can take any step and stop at any point if we want, but the sooner the better to start taking
It's-
steps, right?
That public meeting is a step that we have to go through. I think the sooner we do that.
And that's just for the manual arts building, right? The junior
Well-
high is
well,
different,
So
or
now
is it still a public
we
building?
got two problems there. The manual arts is fine because it's vacated right now, but we still have an occupant in the junior high building, so we would need to deal with that prior to closing it.
Right.
Oh.
So maybe the proper thing to do is have the public meeting on the manual arts itself. So that one we can move along the timeline.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, even though we as an entity are not occupying the junior high, we would still,
We have no students in there.
We have no students in there, but
but because we're leasing it out to
We're still
somebody or
leasing it
letting
out.
somebody else be in there, I mean, that's a separate entity, we still can't technically close it for our personal, our individual use, I should
as
say.
long as it's occupied, you can need to, unless I'm wrong, Ryan, but I believe as long as there's an occupant in there, we can't close it.
Without quoting chapter and verse, that's my recollection as well.
I would just assume since we're not using it as a school.
No,
well,
but-
what's no harm, no foul, I guess, but. So we would have to vacate the junior high completely, third parties also, before we could even move forward with having a conversation about tearing it down.
Well, we can have a conversation about it, but until,
Well, I mean,
We
start
can't-
them steps, I guess,
yeah.
through the public hearing.
right,
Okay.
But that's not on the historic register, so that one step is removed from the junior high process.
right.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to see our administration look at the soonest possible date that we could have that meeting. Maybe if we could tie it into one of our regular board meetings and have it prior to a board meeting. But I think we should move forward with it.
Well, what that process would entail is we post it like we would, it has to be posted for 2 weeks, I believe, for people to have input into it. And then at the meeting itself, we would need to schedule a hearing officer
Okay.
that would preside over that meeting.
But I guess what I'm asking is that we do all of those steps and we set it up to happen in January.
Okay.
And if do I have to put that in a form of a motion or do I?
Yes, because
Okay,
you're authorizing me to spend money, because we do need to find a hearing officer for that, which
okay.
there will be costs incurred to that.
Then my motion would be that our administration work on setting up a meeting to be held in January as a step toward the public hearing, that meeting that has to be held in order to close that building,
The manual arts
the
building.
manual arts building.
Okay.
I'll second it. Do we have to have that that group who is on the historical register, they have to come in first?
That's where I would recommend speaking with your attorney about the statutes related to that, to make sure you take the proper steps.
Okay.
But at least begin the process, so even if the
Yeah,
meeting was
start to
delayed.
Find out
beyond
what we have to
January.
do to hold that meeting, yes.
Right. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Is everyone clear on what the motion is? All right. All those in favor of going forward with this?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, then the second part of that would be what you want to do with the junior high building. Because like I said, we currently have an occupant. The lease runs through June 30th.
Well, I think the problem that we have with the lease is we had one condition attached to the granting of that lease, and that was that we would get monthly reports from, in this case, it was Dave Saline with the City of Evlith and/or Chickagami. We have not heard from either in an official capacity since August. So that's certainly a violation of what we asked them to do for that extension of that lease into the end of June. None of us want to see us lose daycare, but we have to take action. I think we have to move forward. We've certainly given them every opportunity to communicate with us and to work with us, and for whatever reason, that hasn't happened.
I don't know what's so hard about sending them a simple email.
Yeah, and I don't begin to understand it myself. I guess, to be fair to the families who have kids there, if we made a decision tonight or soon, that would certainly give them a larger window of time in which to make a decision about what they're going to do.
Maybe encourage those families to contact the Evlith Council and also Chickagami and say, why haven't you done this simple thing so that we can move forward?
This is a tough one. It puts us in a bad spot, and we've done everything we can do.
I agree. We've bent over backwards trying to accommodate.
We
And,
accommodated them for many years.
Well, I'll be the bad guy here. I will make a motion that we notify Chickagami of our intention to let that lease die at the end of June. At this point, we have no intentions of renewing it. And if there's a more correct way of wording that, the intent is that when that lease expires at the end of June, we not do anything with it.
I'll second that motion.
Kathy, did I make that clear as mud? I apologize.
Just to notify the Chickagami officials that when the lease expires at the end of June, it will not be renewed.
Thank you. Much more articulate. I appreciate that.
And support was by?
40.
Mark.
So it's Putzel and 40. That's not a fun motion to have to
That's
make.
not an easy
No,
one to make.
it is not.
We've tried everything over the years to help them get going, or we even tried to even see if they could move into one of our buildings.
We've
And
made a
they've
number
turned
of
them down.
offers, yeah. So with that being said, is there any further discussion on that motion?
I would just like to add that I think it is a tough conversation to be had, but I mean, as a matter of fact, I mean, this weekend I had a conversation with somebody that was close to the organization, and they don't know why we're not getting these letters. They don't know why we're not getting these updates. But so many great things are happening and so much movement is going on, but nothing can be specific, and nothing can be clear, and nothing can be put in writing. So, I mean, that being said, it's what more can you do when we have to move forward? I mean, and without any communication.
I think everyone needs to understand too, the state of disrepair that building is in right now. It's a huge liability to us at this moment, so I mean, we need to do something about it. Because it's not, we're not using it,
Right.
for one. So
For our own students.
For our own purposes, I mean, like I said,
One of my reasons for seconding the motion, and I will vote for it, is maybe this will prompt some information coming back to us at our meeting in January. We'll see.
I hope so.
We shouldn't have to take
Wait,
any action with the intent that someone is going to
I understand that.
do what they agreed to do in the first place, but, yeah.
I mean, Kimona's thing, I was there when we negotiated that, and we were very, very clear. I mean, I might have been the bad guy there because I was adamant that we kept getting these.
Well, we didn't increase the lease amount, we didn't add anything onerous to the agreement. The only request was this communication, which hasn't happened. So with that being said, let's put this to a vote. All those in favor of notifying Chickagami of our intent not to renew that lease at the end of June, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That's a tough one. Is there anything else regarding vacant buildings that we need to address, Mr. Carey?
no, that'll give me enough to do for a while.
A couple days anyhow.
If you run out of things, let us know. All right, we will go on to 11.5, the facilities report from DSGW. Excuse me just a moment. If you girls would like to leave, you can. If you'd like to stay and listen, you're welcome to.
Ryan's gonna start talking, run.
Yeah. Yeah, we know this is no fun for you, so. You're welcome to stay if you wish, as the exit. And again, we're going on to the facilities report from DSGW and Ryan Turner.
Well, thank you very much for having me back. Let me ask questions, please. Come on over. Okay, so I'm here to discuss the most recent update to our facilities planning project. As you know, we've been in contact and it's been an ongoing process, and tonight is going to be, I hope you are prepared to take in a lot of information. There's going to be a lot to absorb, I'll admit. At the end of it, I hope it all makes perfect sense and is clear as a bell what we're trying to convey here from what we've discussed previously. Without any further ado, at the risk of looking like your previous report, I'll start with numbers. What I really want to pull out of this, I'm not asking you to go through every line item here. In the big picture, what I'm trying to show you here is your current financial situation, your status quo. At the top half of the screen, what you see is the information that's been posted to the Department of Ed website. Anybody can access this. It's readily available, and it looks at your finances and I'm going to say in all of those topics that you see to the left. And on the bottom half is the state average and what you can, I'm going to say, fairly compare yourself to. The highlighted items are what I'm going to focus on to start with. And what you can see there is the operation and maintenance and the student transportation dollars. There are other items that we can touch on, and namely, if you want to compare the administration numbers, or I think it would be worthwhile looking at the comparison between regular instruction as well. But I'll start by looking at the operation and maintenance and the transportation numbers. So if we pull those, you can see that currently Evelyn Gilbert is spending per student $1,882, and the state average is $868, for a difference of over $1,000 per student for operation and maintenance. So, in simple terms, if you take your current enrollment of 1,006 students and multiply it by that difference between what an average school spends and what you are spending, every year you are spending over $1 million on facilities and operations that I'll say you shouldn't be spending. And feel free to stop me anywhere along the way if you have questions. Please do. On top of that, it was mentioned just briefly earlier about the taconite royalty money. In 2015, that amounted to over $1 million. In addition to the taconite royalty money, there are also taconite production tax dollars that you receive currently. And you can see those three numbers listed below come to the total of over $1.3 million. So again, the big picture I want you to take away from this is that you took in over $2.4 million that is not guaranteed to be part of your budget in the near future. I'm not going to say it's going to go away completely. I don't have a crystal ball, however, and I'm not going to guarantee that you will have that dollar amount or anywhere near it in the future. If anybody wants to look into their crystal ball about what production is in taconite right now, it goes on a 3-year average, that production tax amount. So I will say that we know in the next 3 years due to the average, it's going to go down, but I can't tell you how much. The other piece I can tell you is that that taconite royalty money that you're currently receiving, if they were to mine at full production, the piece of property that is currently being mined would, it would run out of, your royalty dollars would be, I'm going to say, completely paid out to you in 3 years, from what I'm told. That's if they were mining at full capacity. And Andrea, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. So, the big picture here again, there are dollars that you are currently taking in that are not going to be here, at least not in this full amount, in the near future. Yes?
Just to put that in perspective, I mean, these are dollars that no other school has the opportunity to receive outside of the taconite belt in Minnesota. I mean, this is kind of specific to our region, right? I mean, especially the royalty money, for instance.
We're the only school in the state of Minnesota.
That's
Getting
collecting.
the royalty money right now.
Yes.
So you could easily say $2.4 million of our revenue is just because of our where we're located, fortunately.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that, we'd be just like every other school.
Yeah. And so what I can also add is that, again, that 1.3 million, I'm not going to predict that the mines are all going to be boarded up tomorrow and you're not going to receive 1 red cent. However, we know that production, at least based on the 3-year average formula that they're using, it's going to go down. So, oh, go ahead.
The question I have, is there any offset that might come into play on the production tax dollars for our revenue? Or is it just lost completely? I mean, if
There's part of it, there's lots of area, well, you can see there's 3 different areas to it. So I mean, there are some areas that will just be lost with lower production. There are some fail-safes in there though, in some of the dollars. I can tell you probably at least a third of it though, I can almost guarantee will reduce significantly.
Okay, so there will be a reduction.
There will be a reduction in that amount.
How deep, how much, how long, we don't know.
We don't know.
And the royalty money, that is unique for our school district. And nobody else gets that, right?
Right.
But what Ryan was saying, the shortest life that it could have might be about 3 more years. If the mine takes all of that ore quickly. That again, it could spread out a little more, but eventually it will run out. If not in 3 years, in 4 or 5, it's going to play out. Right?
Yep.
And there isn't any other lease that is going to take its place. When that one's gone, we're done.
When that's done, it's done.
Okay.
This is a second parcel, wasn't it? Wasn't there one that's already
Yes.
spent?
One has
And
already
this is
been
the
used
other
up.
last one.
But I'm just asking the question that there isn't a third one out there.
There isn't a third one. This is it.
This is going to be it.
If they move again, I believe Mesabi East will be the recipient,
Okay.
from what I understand. Because they're right on the border right now.
Yeah, they're going east. They keep
Yep.
moving east, yes.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about some of your expenditures, and we've talked a little bit about what you take in now. So, with those expenditures, I want to answer the question, why does it cost so much to operate the facilities? Now, what you see here is what the Department of Education recommends for square footage for each of the grade levels that you see, and the highlighted area is for a district of your size. We're right at that 1,006, so I'm going to say that we're going to use that 500 to 999 bracket. So you can see those square footage numbers vary. At the highest end, we're between 190 and 220 square feet per student. Now, here's what you actually have. You can see that we have an extreme excess of square footage in this district related to what your enrollment is, by any way that you slice it, whether you're looking at the state average or not. It is an extreme amount of square footage for what you need, and specifically at the upper grades. Now at the bottom, you can also see that we have the 2 buildings that were discussed earlier, the manual training and the former junior high building. which I'm leaving as part of that equation because, as you know, there are still costs associated to them even if you're not using them for educational space. But you can see what those total. All in, the district has 620,384 square feet. So, if we were to go by the state guidelines, even if we were to be conservative, that highest range I showed you was 190 to 220. Even if we were to say we bump that up to 225 and use your current enrollment, you would recommend a school district with 226,350 square feet. And as you can see from the bottom line, there again is an extreme amount of excess square footage in the district right now, to the tune of 63.5%. So, getting back to the question, why are the operating costs so high? The first item, of course, is that you have many buildings and the cost of their continued operation is causing you to use a large amount of your budget to keep them open. Getting back to that difference between what the state average is of $800 some dollars to what the district spends in over $1,800 some dollars per student. Secondly, there are inefficiencies related to having a duplication of service and inefficient operations because of having two campuses. And thirdly, you also have an issue when it comes to the age of your buildings. It's not just the amount of square footage, it's the fact that it's extremely old. We talk often at this level about how we have a lot of 100-year-old buildings on both campuses. And that is contributing to your operating costs as well.
Just to put that in perspective, there is a list on the state website as to age of buildings, and they do an average based on your square footage and what year that was built, and our average is about 94 years, which puts us in second place in the state. Chisholm is about a half year older than we are.
Second place in the state. I'll let that soak in a little bit. Out of every district in the state, the second oldest group of campus buildings.
Can I ask,
Yes.
who has us beat?
Chisholm, by a half a year.
By half a-
Yeah.
Whew,
Okay, so with that, I want to talk about reasons for a change here. And while I know we've heard many, and that there are probably more than what I will outline here tonight, I think there are 8 that are very important that I want to make sure we discuss. So this isn't a be-all and end-all list, but I think there are 8 very important reasons that I at least want to use to start the conversation. So with what was just, with what I just presented, the first thing is that the district needs to look at reducing those operating costs within 5 years, I'm going to say, or it will face some severe austerity measures. If we think about the first few things we talked about, what you spend, and then some of the income that isn't guaranteed, we know that there is, I'm going to say, a 3-year window. It may stretch to 5. Again, like Mark talked about, depending on how long it takes them to mine and how long that royalty money may come in, but I wouldn't want to roll the dice much longer than that. Secondly, the district needs to look at eliminating, or at a minimum, significantly reducing duplicate services and operations. A district of this size with the income that you have, a big part of that excess spending has to do with a lot of things that are redundant. Next, the district needs to look at addressing a number of logistical issues. We know currently issues with security, there's parking constraints, and other deficiencies related to buildings and grounds. They all have an impact on enrollment, efficiency, time spent educating as well as your bottom line. And again, without getting too long-winded about all of them, at a minimum, we know there are major issues with the things listed here. Next, related to that income, I mean, what I can say is that the decline in enrollment in the district, we've talked before about how there is a portion of that that is directly related to the loss of population in the area. That's something that you have less control over. We know that. However, there is a segment of your enrollment that you do have some control over, that you can have an influence over, and that's with the open enrollment segment. Now, to be competitive for those open enrollment kids, you're going to need to look at modernizing instructional spaces, continuing to provide an excellent education, to look at retaining and attracting students, while at the same time gaining functionality and efficiency. Another item that is of extreme importance in today's educational setting is needing to be up to date with technology. And that is an even harder challenge with the age of buildings that you have. To be able to continue to try to retrofit technology into the existing old buildings, if you talk to anybody, whether it's Tom Prosen or his staff that deal with the IT for the district, it's an ongoing battle for them. Item number 6. Many of the district buildings have reached the end of their useful life and are no longer feasible to renovate, and select buildings and some spaces within other buildings are not acceptable structures for what I'll say is modern education. You've made some great steps just before I came up to the podium to talk about 2 of the buildings that fit the bill when it comes to this item, namely the old junior high and the manual training building. There are also other areas that have the same problems and same issues. And I won't get into detail about it specifically now. Item number 7 that I think is worth mentioning, and I pointed it out on the first slide. The district needs to eliminate or significantly reduce transportation costs and inefficiencies between the 2 campuses. The district spends a lot more on transportation than it should, and it's not just the dollars. There's also an awful lot of time lost. And without having specifics about the hourly wage of every teacher that travels back and forth, we've heard loud and clear from the staff and the students about frustrations related to lost time related to travel. Finally, I do want to say that we've heard loud and clear that folks recognize the importance of the presence of the school in the communities that it serves, and that the overall big picture is that the district still needs to continue to provide an excellent education for all of its students. I don't want to come up here and just be a messenger of gloom and doom. The district does a lot of great things, but I want to see the district continue to do great things into the distant future. So with that in mind, if nothing happens, there will be consequences for not changing, which means that there will be continued excessive costs of operating the buildings and campuses, which will bring the district into, I'm going to say, some dire straits financially within 5 years. And the outdated and inefficient facilities will be a factor in driving some students away. And thirdly, that continued decline in population will also have a reduction in revenue attached to it. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but if you even just look at the current rate of decline that the district has seen over the last 10 years, it's seen a reduction in 25% of its student population. I don't think it's, I would bet money that's going to continue. So without being able to give you a number of students you're going to lose, we know that that student population is going to continue to decline and only exacerbate the financial issues that you have. So with that said, what do we do next? Well, we need to figure out how we can recreate our school district to be financially stable and provide excellence in education to our children. Simple enough, right? So what I would propose is that we take these 8 reasons for change that we've outlined here and use them as benchmarks, as a scorecard of outcomes to be able to look at some options in terms of the facilities for the district. So in kind of cliff notes, there are the 8 things that I had outlined earlier, and I think we can add or take away things from this list, but even if we start here to start using these as some goals and benchmarks to assess some of the options as we move forward. So in looking at some options, I think we need to start looking at what the site requirements, building requirements, campus configurations are, of course, and of course, we need to know what that's going to cost and what the savings will be. And then, as with any exercise, we're going to look at the pros and cons and move forward from there. So, if we were to put a timeline to this, we'll look at creating these facility options over the next 4 weeks, having the board review those options. We're going to propose having some community presentations of those options so the board can take input and be able to make a selection. After which, we would take a look at putting together a review and comment for the Department of Education to consider, and then be able to potentially discuss whether you want to move forward with a referendum or the logistics of a project from there, whatever the options may determine, and even to look farther ahead at the potential of a bond referendum and having community engagement related to that, should the board so choose. So, this is just a proposed timeline for how this could be brought forward. I'm more than willing to take input from folks about how this could be modified, if things want to be added or revised. But really what I'm looking for here next is the green light to move into that first block and come back to you with some solutions for the things that we talked about today.
Is that a realistic time frame?
I think so. Yeah.
I think
The one factor I will say that is, that you can see between the board selection of a facility option and that 2-week period and then moving to that 4-week period in the lower left. It will take 4 weeks to put together the review and comment for the state, for the Department of Ed. At the same time, we'll be working,
That's assuming, though, that
Yeah.
that's even necessary. I mean, I think the first thing
Yeah.
is to create the options to see what the board wants to do with it.
Mm-hmm. What I just wanted to say was that there's a 60-day window that the Department of Ed makes you give them. So after that 4 weeks, when you submit it, there's a 60-day window in there after.
So like, are you saying like a hurry up and wait type thing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's up to state. Mr. Ford?
I would suggest a little change to
Okay.
the first block, the 4 weeks.
Mhm.
I think that's 4 weeks is fine, because that pretty much coincides with our first meeting in January, maybe give or take a few days. But I'd like to see another 2-week window that the board has time to look at those options and maybe add another option or 2 for you to look at in the next 2 weeks, so that by that second meeting in January, we can finalize those options.
So a board review and comment period.
Something like that.
Okay.
Just looking at the timeline, I think to get started with those facility options, maybe will require 2 meetings on our part.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else feels
I
that
mean,
way.
at each step, I mean, we can review and go forward or stop and go back if we want,
Yeah.
right? I mean, just,
But just to provide a little window in case we come up with another option that hadn't been presented, that we have 2 weeks there if we want, if we think we need them. But I like the rest of the schedule.
I mean, as far as conversation, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, I've been saying since I've been a part that we need to do something in our district. I mean, we're losing kids, our buildings are old, and we're all hanging on to the glory days. But I guess I kind of had a brief conversation with Jeff when I picked up my kid today. I mean, what is the long-term goal? You know, I mean, how small of a district do we allow our school to get? I mean, that's the, you know, we're saying 3 to 5 years. I mean, worst case scenario, we say we need to build new because, you know, I mean, I'm just hypothetically, I'm just throwing stuff out there. But no matter what we do, renovate, build new, add on, it's going to cost money. And how much money do we decide to spend to what ends for how long a time period, right? I mean,
Well,
that's kind of what I try to wrap my mind around is like this is a process that's starting to, it's bigger than what we started, if that makes sense.
What I can say to address a couple of your comments, currently, depending on the grade level, you're a 3 to 4 section school. So I would say that we would look at designing a 4-section school to start with the ability to be flexible and be able to add on. I would love to be able to say that we could add on in the future, but we will definitely plan to do so that we can react
See, I'm
accordingly.
the pessimist where I would say, why don't we just start
Well-
with a 3-section? We haven't been going up.
Yes.
I mean, the
Yep.
trend isn't there, and with our economy the way it is, I mean, we ain't gonna turn it around, I don't think.
I would love to be able to plan for success. And I can
This
say
is
that-
public money. I mean, this is where I'm at, you know, I mean.
Well, right now you are a 3 to 4 section school, so I really wouldn't recommend going smaller than 4 section. You need to be able to accommodate the students you have. So even with that said, I think related to your second comment about the cost of it, that's something that'll come to light as we move forward.
Right.
So.
another comment that I would add, I really like what you've done, Ryan, with the financial outlook, the 3 to 5 years or the 3 years that you're talking about. But I think something else that needs to be added to that is our operating levies are due to have to be renewed around the same time. What do we have, 5 years left on them or something like that? I think that needs to be part of the financial discussion.
Okay.
Because there's some other money there that is not guaranteed in the
Okay.
future, right? Because they would have to be renewed.
Okay.
And I don't know what the exact amount is, but I think that's something to be included in this financial outlook.
The last school referendum was a couple of years ago already. I mean, how long are those good for? 5?
10 years.
So, 10 years? Okay.
But it's just another factor of non-guaranteed income for this district. And we need to be aware, the public needs to be aware of that.
Well, it's going to be part of the public is, depending on which we go, whatever their input is that we should go, that they might have to pay for it if they want it that bad, right?
That's that last little box down there in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yep.
They're going to tell us if we're planning wrong.
Yep.
That's going to determine everything that we do.
That's right.
And we have to do it right the first time. We have to go through all these options, look them all over, pick out the best one that's, with all the input we're gonna get from everybody, what's gonna work the best for us. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels if we don't get the right information. If you have to stop in the middle of it and go back because, oh, we messed up, we forgot something. Take your time, do it right the first time, you don't have to go back and do it a second time.
But I think, just to piggyback on that, I agree with what you said, but I think we're all also aware of a time frame here. We can't let this
No, we can't.
lag unnecessarily.
We can't
So
let it lag on,
yes,
but
we
we
have
have
to
to
have
be-
time to do it correctly, but we have to use that time efficiently so that this doesn't just die for
We
lack
have
of
to-
interest.
We have to be thorough and timely on when we do it.
Yep.
Definitely.
That's a good way to put it. Thorough and timely.
And I guess the the bottom line, no matter how you look at it, is this isn't about me or any of the other people in this room. This is about the kids. And if we keep wasting money on buildings, we're not going to have the money to educate them the way we'd like to. So as tough as these conversations are to have, and this is going to get worse before it gets better, with all the criticism that we will hear and all the tough conversations we'll have, I think we all have to remember the bottom line is this is truly about getting these kids educated.
And the last thing I will say is that I am hopeful, very cautiously optimistic, that that we can make the types of changes we need to fix these problems before you have your back up against the wall and those revenues that you currently have coming in no longer come in.
If we wait too long, we won't have a choice.
Exactly.
The state will step in and make a choice for us.
Exactly.
They did bring it home, I lost a herd in the Nashville.
I don't remember, but I remember it
I
happening.
think it was Greenway, where they made the state came in.
They're in what's called SOD, is statutory operating debt.
Yep. We don't want that to happen.
No. Any questions? Anything else that you'd like me to look into before we dive into that first block?
I'd like you to start buying lottery tickets. With the idea that the revenue comes to us.
There you go.
I have got one question.
Yes.
Could I get some kind of paperwork or something on this
What I'm going to do.
presentation when you are ready?
Yep, absolutely. What I'm going to do as we move forward here is we've set up what's called a base camp site that I will that board members can access this information from, and it's just going to be PDFs of these presentations. So I know that's been requested in the past, and rather than try to email them to all you or something along those lines, we'll make sure you can get to them. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Very good report.
I will say I'm really excited to work on this.
I don't think
Just a
so.
report.
How you figure we just have to wait for Ryan to get things to us?
I think we're still in the original planning phase of what we did a couple months, many months ago.
And this is another one of those hard conversations to have when, I suspect that some of the decisions we'll make going forward will not be as popular as you'd like, but it is what it is. All right, we need to set a closed session for negotiation strategies.
Support.
Young and Peterson. So once we complete the agenda, we'll go into closed session, come back and adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
I have a whole lot that I haven't already shared with you, but one of the things that came out of the working session, because we talked about our cooperative athletic things, and I was asked to get a dollar figure on what we're spending on those things. So Andrea prepared a spreadsheet here for me that just has a cost per participant on it, so you can see how much that we're spending on each of those.
Thank you, Andrea.
Cooperative sports. And other than that, I mean, I just like to wish you all happy holidays. I'm sure we'll see you around here and there, but officially I won't see you again until the New Year's. Enjoyed working for you in 2015. And see how 2016 goes. You guys are starting out good already.
Yes, we are. Thank you. Board member topics. Mr. Chad.
I got two things, actually. First thing was, I was in attendance of that Franklin concert, and I wanted to congratulate Ms. Twamanen on her giving it her first crack at it. I would like to just express my kind of disgust in the way the parents handled, as a crowd, hooting and hollering and screaming for their kids and waving, and it was just completely disrespectful to her, is what it seemed like to me, and I just I felt ashamed to be there for part of it. And I hope that she can just keep going through it with this. And
That was a less elegant way of when I said that we need to make some changes there.
yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, I don't know if I was at a child concert or a sporting event, is what it seemed like to me. So I'm not afraid to tell it like it is. But second thing I've got, I wrote it down so I don't screw up too much here. I'll just read this brief verbatim here. I'd like to briefly speak my mind on the spring baseball coach position that was approved by our board. I understand I was a part of this vote, and this mess we caused was partially my fault. However, I was always brought up where if you've wronged someone, to own up to your mistake and make things right. In this case, we've not only wronged someone, we've wronged our entire staff, the public, and most importantly, the students. The way that the board has simply taken a stance to move on and deal with it is, to say the least, disheartening. I'm not afraid to be part of an unpopular vote if I truly believe it's right. I've always had a vote with my head, not with my heart mentality, and in this instance, I really voted with neither. At our last regular meeting, we were advised that by legal counsel that we can rescind a hiring if there is no contract. On Tuesday, November 24th, I wrote Superintendent Carey an email wishing to have this item revisited on the agenda to make a motion for that rescindment. On December 10th, I was advised by Madam Chair Putzel via an email that my request would not be granted and this item would not be added to the agenda. I was told in this email to call with any questions. However, I feel this discussion is better brought up in front of the public, as I feel they should be able to be a part of it, and it is my belief that too much of this discussion has already taken place behind the scenes. I simply do not understand why this issue is being swept under the rug and truly feel an injustice has taken place. Thank you for allowing me this time to clear my conscience.
Thank you. Dr. Shamrock?
No, I don't have anything at this time. Just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you. Director Forty?
The only thing I have is a little review on the junior high band concert, choir concert, that I thought went off very well. The kids had an excellent time performing, fans and the public enjoyed it, and were well behaved. That was a pleasant experience all around.
Very nice. Director Young?
Well, I think that we've dropped the items that we used to do before Christmas time for our staff. We don't make, we used to call it the cookie keeper. We used to do that all the time, and the last couple of years, we just haven't done it, and I don't know why we dropped it. Maybe partly my fault. I still would like to try and do it if possible. With every
I don't even know what they're talking about.
member used to bring 3 or 4 dozen of cookies. We put them together with, like, I think it was 14, 15 trays over the years to go to each lunchroom area or coffee room or break room, including for the office, that we would put these all together and sign Christmas cards to each one. Sign a Christmas card on each piece of, of each collection that we had, like a tray of cookies. We just don't do it anymore. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I think we should reinstate it. Why we stopped doing it, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. If anyone's interested.
I was just eating some of Mr. Forty's.
But those were not homemade. Those were store-bought. But I brought a few in.
I'm not cooking if that's what you guys are asking.
I think it's that we should show the staff that we do appreciate what they do. Something simple like making cookies, I think, goes a long ways. We used to do it all the time. And I hope that they appreciated it when we did it. And I just think that we should try to do it again if possible.
Are you saying we do it next year?
I'm saying we still have time to do it this year.
You got 4 days. We'll start making.
Plus
They don't have to be made at home, but even if you go to town and buy them, they're good ones. I don't mean buying Oreo cookies out of a package.
You got Christmas Oreos now.
Christmas try. If you want to make them, fine, but if you don't want to do it this year, fine, but I still think we should do it. Or you can save it for next year, but.
I think one of the reasons it was dropped, and it's the fault of those that have been around while it was going on, is we lost the, how do I say, instigator, or the one who was pushing it, was no longer on the board, and then it kind of fell away. Yeah. But it is something that I agree could certainly be reinstated. We do something for the New Year this time instead of Christmas. Gives us a little more time.
Give us more time, that's fine, but I still think it's something that we should.
Welcome back from vacation.
Yeah.
And here's to help you with your resolution. You know that weight loss resolution, and we're now going to give you a tray of cookies. I didn't look at you. Your wife called. No.
She was looking at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still think it would be nice if we did it, even if we do it.
Yeah. We will welcome back.
We used to get.
Pick a date and do it right now, and then we're all ready to go.
When did they come back?
When do they return?
Fourth.
Well, can we bring him into the office on the 4th?
Sure.
Let's do that.
Can't promise you'll distribute them properly.
We'll send, we'll free sample.
So January 4.
Yeah. Right, I think the last few years we actually dumped everything on the office staff to put them together.
I know we did.
Yeah, we did.
We didn't, no.
It's, all you gotta do is come in here together and do things, and it doesn't take that long to do them. If you all get together and just do it one evening.
Just so the Franklin doesn't get much to work, that'll be fine.
That's where I'm gonna deliver them to.
Well, gee, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think, I don't know how many, I think we used to make like 12, 13, or maybe more areas to drop them off.
Okay.
We'll find out, so we make sure we get enough with the trees.
Why don't you coordinate that with the superintendent so he can tell us how it's supposed to work, and then we'll all participate.
Just bring them here some night and put them together.
The morning of the 4th. Morning of the 4th. You want to have one, right?
Yeah, if I can get.
I'll send you an email.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out.
Pick up the ball, Kathy.
The
Pick up
time
the ball.
of getting here in the mornings.
Okay.
I'll have it delivered.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Director Gentilini.
Director Young said, I remember the first year when I got on the board, that is one thing we did do. And I remember bringing it up trade. It was all set up in here.
Yep.
So I agree with it.
We'll get her done.
Other than that, I have nothing.
Sure.
I thought I had some stuff, but I can't remember it, and I didn't write it down, so I'd just like to say we made it a year. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
Oh, I had one thing that I should have said.
What's that?
You guys you're supposed to form a committee to discuss.
I was going to save that till next year. That was going to be my Christmas present.
You might as well start now.
Oh, the superintendent evaluation committee?
Yeah.
I did think of that, but I figured in the spirit of Christmas.
No, you might as well keep going.
Oh, Mike, you started it. I'll join you.
Yeah, the superintendent evaluation, I mean, for our committee of the whole, we decided we would create a committee to come up with some kind of evaluation criteria. Obviously, I would participate. Mona, you would like to participate?
Yeah. Well, you and I have been at the training, so
Right.
we use that.
I think everybody has it now.
Yeah, I
I
believe so.
want to
Keith
be
has
the
never
third
been
one.
there.
I'll be the third one unless somebody else wants to.
Well, it depends when you have, if it's after work, I can make it. If it's during the day, I can.
I guess anybody can participate. It's just,
Well, and what I see the committee doing is coming up with a structure
right.
Just,
Yeah.
just.
to be approved and accepted by the full board, right?
Yep.
So it's not a final.
No.
No, it'll be just kind of a working committee, lack of a better way to say it. And the guys to kind of give Jeff some guidelines and
And
direction.
hopefully back by the first meeting in January, so we can get things moving.
At least a working draft and
Yes.
feedback, and we'll go from there. So me, Mona, and Mark, 40.
Sounds like a deal.
All right. And Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yes.
And I just have one quick item. I got a thank you from Greg Lovato and John Marcaccini. They go by Evelyn Archives. Last year, probably a year ago already, they had requested a monument that was in the basement for the longest time that listed folks from the area from Evelyn that had served in various capacities in the military during the war particularly. And had a conversation with Greg, and he offered a letter of thanks and a picture of what it looks like, because we had never seen that. I'll pass it around if I can get it back when we're done. I'd appreciate it. Other than that, I hope everyone has a nice Christmas and a happy New Year. And
What's the intention of the plaque? Where is it going to be, or?
They don't have a permanent home for it yet, I was told. It's been displayed in one of Mr. Marcaccini's buildings downtown over the 4th.
Okay.
You could go in and look at it, and I believe they'll do that again next year, if I understood Greg Lovato right. But in conversation, I had told them that we hadn't heard back from them, and it wasn't successfully removed. And again, he offered the letter of thanks and a picture, just so we have some idea, because most of us had never seen the plaque prior to leaving it with them. So.
Well, I was just curious what the new home was.
Yeah, and there is no permanent location.
Okay.
That being said, I believe we have addressed everyone, so we will go into...
Just 1 second, please. Do we want to set a date for our first little meeting for this group
Yeah, you
while we're
should.
here? Or should we just figure it out?
We can do it later.
Good job, good later.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Let's, our agenda is done. Let's go to closed session. When we come back, we'll adjourn. Take a quick break.
Okay.
Anybody need
Let's do it.
minutes?
2 minutes. Now we're doing this.